Yo. Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. I'm a headliner.
What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake and the Doc coming back at you today for a few things. Yes, we're talking injuries. We're going through the recap, but we also got to show us your team segment and some mailbag questions that were submitted here throughout the week that me and Ethan are going to help a few people out with. So do us a favor before we get directly into the content. Hit that like button and consider subscribing if you haven't already. But Ethan, you are here for your expertise in the injury. And there's some names. I don't want to say it was a horrible week, but there are some names we need to cover. But we've also got a little bit of a heads up on a few guys that are already ruled out. So we're gonna start here first, though, with a moment of silence. Right, this is where we need to start off this week, isn't it?
Sadly, Jake, we're 2 for 2 thus far this season with moment of silence. Raheem Mostert has a knee cartilage injury. Originally reported that this was going to be about an 8-week injury. He opted for a different surgery, a season-ending surgery, really focusing on his long-term health. He's got a lot of issues. This is probably a good move for him. And I just want to say this. Stop bashing players when they get hurt.
So stupid.
These guys are gladiators. It's not cool to go after players, to tag them on Twitter, to hit them up on Instagram. Don't do that. Don't do that. Okay. These guys are entertaining us. They're putting their bodies on the line to do this. Don't be those people. No one from Headliner Nation better be tagging players in hate tweets because they get hurt. That's not cool. But we have to move on. Trey Sermon, Elijah Mitchell. Who you got?
The short term is going to be Elijah Mitchell. I think long-term plan is still going to be Trey Sermon. But going back real quick to what you said about Raheem Mostert, I like to sum it up this way. I like to keep it simple, stupid for myself and for everybody else. If fantasy football gets you to a point of anger, then it's not a game for you. Like, everybody likes to win and have a good time, but if it's to the point of anger where you're taking hate out on other people, maybe it's just not the best pastime for you. I mean, this is not a world where we need to be adding hate for a fun game. But yeah, going forward, I think a lot of people want Elijah Mitchell to be like, oh, he's the guy. But when has Kyle Shanahan ever dedicated himself to a guy? There's JaMychal Hasty still going to be involved. He's not somebody we didn't even mention. There's going to be other guys here, and it's going to be a headache going forward.
Absolutely. Well, Jake, we do have some guys that have already been ruled out this week.
Perfect.
Let's get these guys out of here.
Get them out of here.
They got to get out of our lineups. Okay. Yeah. First up, OBJ. We talked about him last week. It looked like he was trending towards playing, but even when I'm wrong, I'm right, Jake, because I said was surprised that OBJ was trending towards playing and he didn't play. And guess what? He's not playing this week either. Get him out of your lineups. Okay, Evan Ingram's dealing with a calf strain still. He missed last night's game. So who knows when he's going to come back. We're hoping maybe next week with a longer rest, but there's no way to know for sure on Evan Ingram. You can't trust him right now. You got to have a backup plan for tight end for at least the next couple of weeks because it doesn't look like Evan Ingram is going to be back anytime soon. Right. Ryan Fitzpatrick, now he's dealing with a hip subluxation. So again, didn't play last night. Expecting him to miss at least 6 weeks with this hip subluxation. So subluxation just means it kind of popped out of place and popped back in. Who knows what type of damage happened? You worry about the labrum in the hip. All we know is he is on IR. He's not going to play for a while. Taylor Heineke expected to start in the meantime, but don't rule them out. Potentially signing a free agent. Cam Newton's still out there. This is a team that has high expectations, despite what maybe you or I think about their what they should have expectation-wise. They think that they're good enough to make the playoffs to compete. And if Taylor Heineke isn't getting that done, they might look somewhere else. Next up, we got Jerry Jeudy. This is probably the biggest one for the week. He has a high ankle sprain that looked like it could have been even worse. I thought maybe we were dealing with a dislocation. It looks like it was just a high ankle sprain, but it was most likely a grade 3 sprain. It looked very serious. He was placed on short-term IR, so we know he's missing at least 3 weeks here, but I would expect this more to be a 6 to 7, 8 week injury. Jerry Jeudy's not somebody that I'm trusting to come back this season and produce big fantasy numbers. It's just one of those injuries that most of the time when they have it at the beginning of the season. It just doesn't turn out well for fantasy. I'd be looking to move him as soon as he comes back, but that's just me. Next up, we got Michael Gallup. He's dealing with a calf strain as well. He had it in week 1. He was placed on IR too. This one could be a short-term issue, could be a long-term issue. It's hard to really tell with a calf injury like this. It wasn't a complete Achilles tear. That would obviously be much more serious. But calf strains can be something that lingers for a long time. So Michael Gallup, we're not going to see him for the next 3 weeks minimum, possibly even longer.
And I'm okay with that. I mean, it sounds bad. I don't want anybody to get injured. Don't mix my words up here. But I mean, that just means that Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb going to be eaten in Dallas here for the next few weeks. And hopefully some of those additional targets can go the way of Zeke Elliott, so people will stop going absolutely crazy. So those are a few guys already ruled out. Make sure they're not in your lineups. Don't have anything to do with them here this week. But we also have some new injuries here that we're monitoring throughout the week to make sure we make the right decision here heading into the weekend. First guy up, though, is Josh Jacobs. A lot of people worried. I mean, the guy is just banged up everywhere right now, but I've heard the term turf toe go around, and that makes my ears perk up and really starts to worry me.
Yeah, we don't want to see that, especially with a guy like Josh Jacobs, who seems to always be hurt. Sadly, there are just players like this out there that they're always dealing with something. Normally it's running backs, but other positions have this problem too. Jacobs was pulled multiple times from the game on Monday. He didn't practice Wednesday. He didn't practice Thursday. If he doesn't get a practice in at all this week, very likely that he doesn't play, this week. I don't love the fact that he's already come out and basically said, hey, you should expect me to sit a lot of Wednesday practices this year because I'm trying to stay healthy and the team is resting me a lot. That is not what you want from, a running back. You don't want them to say, oh, basically I'm always hurt, so I'm always going to need rest on Wednesday. What we do know is that because it was a shorter week because they played on Monday, there was a chance that they are just resting him an extra day on Thursday and that this isn't something that's going to keep him out. I am a little concerned. He did need 2 touchdowns to be a viable fantasy option on Monday. And so he's not always going to have that. They're not always going to, be in shootouts where he's going to have those touchdown opportunities. You take those touchdowns away, all of a sudden you're looking at a very risky flex option at best for Josh Jacobs.
Plus, it's a difficult matchup too. Going up against Pittsburgh this week, it's not like he's got some easy matchup to look forward to as well.
Yeah, my undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers.
It's been 1 week. Shut up.
Doesn't matter. Undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers are going to shut down Josh Jacobs this week. I'm not surprised. But if you're worried about his injuries, just know that he's basically what he's always been. He's always wait and see. You're always, kind of on the edge of your seat waiting to replace him because you find out he gets scratched on Sunday. Next up, we got Marquise Brown. He's dealing with an ankle sprain. He did have a productive night. He went 6 for 69. Nice. And a touchdown last week. He did miss 2 practices already. With this one, my biggest concern is that this game is Sunday night. And so because it's a later game in the afternoon, you better have a contingency plan either within that game or on the Monday night slate, because if he is a late scratch, most of the options that you would have been able to replace him with are probably have already played and locked in. So if you're not trusting this, or it doesn't look like, if he doesn't practice at all this week, I would probably be pulling him out of my lineups just to be safe. Miles Sanders was in the news this week, and we're always concerned just because he is a guy that tends to get hurt, but don't worry about it. It was just a rest day. He appears to be fine after some initial concerns that maybe he was banged up. He is going to go up against the 49ers defense that's going to be without their starting linebacker, Drain Greenlaw. So I had a few people in the comments ask me, Ethan, can you talk about some defensive players? Here's a nugget for you. Linebacker Dre Greenlaw. He is out for the next 6 weeks with a groin injury. That is good news for Miles Sanders. He should be able to get a more favorable matchup in the pass game and could potentially have a bigger day because they're not going to be playing with their starting linebacker. Next up, we have Rashad Penny. He's dealing with a calf strain. He missed practice early in the week. Surprise, surprise. Yep. So expect Chris Carson to see a bunch of carries against this Tennessee defense that did not look good in week 1. Chris Carson is a locked-in starter this week. I think he's got top 12 upside for fantasy. He could easily break off a couple touchdowns against the Tennessee defense that, like I said, is not very good. Last up here, once again, dropping a little bit of nuggets on the defensive side, but does affect our fantasy lineups for the offensive side. DeMarcus Lawrence left practice this week with a broken foot. He's expected to miss multiple weeks for the Cowboys, which means we can expect a much better performance, most likely, for Chargers running back Austin Eckler and quarterback Justin Herbert. The pressure is not going to be on. The Cowboys really did not put up a great defensive performance anyway. DeMarcus Lawrence was kind of the best defender that they had in that first game. So without him, what does that defense look like? I'm going to guess Justin Herbert is going to absolutely feast on these guys. And so make sure, obviously, you're starting Justin Herbert, but if you're, somebody that plays a lot of DFS, make sure that you're kind of sprinkling these guys into your lineups on Sunday because they should be in line for a big day without DeMarcus Lawrence.
Perfect. Love it. A lot of injury recaps, some names to pay attention to heading into the weekend. And if we get any new news, we'll be sure to update you in future episodes, plus our Saturday Night Live show at 9 p.m. Eastern. But now we're going to turn our attention away from the serious news of injury recaps. And now it's time to have some fun because you know what it's time for, Ethan?
Show me your team.
Show me your teams. You better believe it. We've asked for some submissions, and here we go. I'm going to pull them up here real quick. We're going to go through 6 of them here real quick. We're going to help you set some lineups, and we're going to make fun of your handwriting. That's what this is all about. So let me pull it up here. The first one we are going to is going to be Jordan Ortiz. What's going on, Jordan? He has a team name of Can You Digs It? I can digs it. What I don't digs is why are there so many damn arrows on this piece of paper? This is like an old school treasure map, and I'm already confused of who's supposed to go where. What do you think about Can You Digs It from Jordan, Ethan?
I can't tell if this is like a shoots and ladder board or if it's a team.
They were playing Candyland or something up in here.
We're definitely doing something. There, we got question marks.
Why are there question marks on the arrows? Like it's following the arrow.
I think he's trying to figure out if he should put in Terry McLaurin for Nelson Aguilar or Christian Kirk. Dude, yes, you should have started Terry McLaurin.
Yes.
He's already crushed it. I hope you put him in. He should have been in your lineup anyway. I'm a little concerned about your decision making just in that regard. I'm not loving it. He's had some bad injury luck. He's got Jerry Jeudy on this squad. He had to drop Fitzpatrick. That's just horrible luck, my dude. Overall, anybody on the team that you think should be in the starting lineup? I'm not really seeing.
Other than him having McLaurin down there, which I hope that he knew better to start. I mean, we put him in our start sit videos. He was ranked a little higher, so hopefully he moved Terry McLaurin back up. The only other thing that I'm going to draw attention to is the confused / sad stick man here on the right side of the screen. I don't know. I mean, he's got a sad face after Fitzy. He's got a stick man going like, I don't know what's going on. There's just a lot of confusion here for me, and that's where my attention goes, and this probably shouldn't.
It probably shouldn't, and you should never bench Terry McLaurin.
Never.
Next question.
Perfect. Moving on. What about Corey Living Good? Now, I'm wondering if that's his real name or not, because he living good. You know what I mean?
We're living good.
His team name, Bad Mother Tuckers. First thing I'm looking for, does he have Justin Tucker?
He does.
Perfect. Automatic. You're starting in the right direction here, Corey. Your bench, it's hard for me to read it, but part of that is because it, to me, seemed like you used a dull number 2 pencil, like maybe a stubby one, and you used a piece of paper that has been written on so damn hard that you can see, like you scribbled it. And I don't understand. Like the piece of paper, I could probably almost read like your book report on the backside of this if I really strained my eyes. But we'll take a look real quick here at the bench. You got Kareem Hunt on your bench. I don't know if I would bench Kareem Hunt, but when you look at your roster, you got Derrick Henry and Chris Carson, and then Bobby Trees and CEH in your flex. I don't hate that whatsoever. Eli Mitchell, you're waiting and seeing. I like it. Chuba, you're not going to start. Nelson Aguilar, no. Lazard, Slayton, Watkins. You got Jerry Jeudy on IR. Overall, you've made the right choices here on your team, just not your selection of paper.
Yeah, I agree. This paper looks wet, like he's ran out into the, like he was running inside, trying to protect his okay team.
Yeah.
And it got rained on. Not your best use of paper, but overall the squad's pretty good. Sorry about Jerry Jeudy. That sucks.
Yeah, bummer. All right, next one up, Drew. Drew, I don't know, does Drew need a V8? Because his team it's like slanted. And what's weird though is typically when I see writing, it slants the other way. Like people have a tendency to like indent more. He like goes closer to the margin. Like he's just trying to go against the grain here and do things backwards. The other thing that I noticed is he struggles with the first letter of people's names because he had to rewrite the R for Randall Cobb. Let's see, we got an M in there that had to be, and then he's forgotten some periods or some commas. It looks like he tried to insert a comma after R Woods because he didn't leave a big enough space between first and last.
I think that's his problem is he's adding. I think this looks like a post-written.
Oh, you think he did it after
of the first initial? Because you can see the A, the D, the T, and the R are all kind of squeezed
like
in
an afterthought.
This is classic. King of the Hill. Tyreek Hill is on his team.
Okay.
It's all right. It's okay. I get the reference. Great TV show. One of those shows that ages well. The older I get, the funnier that show is.
Perfect.
But overall, the squad's okay. I don't really see anybody on
I
the
would
bench.
not flex Brandon Ayuk. I would not do that. I would flex
you're
Antonio
totally
Brown.
right.
I would flex Antonio Brown over Brandon Ayuk because Brandon Ayuk is not only not 100% healthy, but he's also in the doghouse, and his head coach coming out and saying he can't beat the guys that are in front of him now. So that's a problem.
Kind of embarrassing.
It's kind of embarrassing. Like he's literally calling him out. So I'm putting Antonio Brown into the flex lineup. I'm also going to recommend like a ruler or lined paper next time so that you can keep him a little bit more flush. I'm looking for the flush, but overall, not bad.
Not bad.
Does it say that he has Ryan Tannehill on his IR spot?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Wow. That's cheating. Straight
I
up
think
cheater.
it says
He's cheating.
Ryan Tanchill.
Ryan Tanchill, whoever that dude is, he on IR.
Tanchill.
All right, next one. Here we go. This one's going to be fun. Fantasy Rookie C. So I'm guessing either he's a Seattle fan or it's his rookie season in fantasy football. He's taken the time to draw us a diagram leading to a pot of gold.
Now, this reminds me of Candyland.
Yes, agreed. I don't understand the pyramid on the right side. What does that represent? Any idea?
That's a Christmas tree.
No, it's not.
That is a Christmas tree, Jake.
That's the worst Christmas tree I've ever
There's
seen.
a star on the top. It's shaped like a triangle. That's clearly a Christmas tree. And the other one is
like an apple tree?
An apple tree of a large bush tree. He's even added some, actually not the worst tree I've ever seen. I'll be honest.
The Christmas tree is bad.
That's a bad. How are you so good at drawing regular trees and so bad at drawing Christmas trees?
Yeah,
Christmas trees are like, those are like OGs. You got to like you got to get the edges. They're too smooth.
Yeah, like a little triangle. Yeah,
smooth.
Sharp.
I don't know who he started. Oh, I guess he's starting the team.
Everybody on the path. Everybody on the path.
Okay. Making it much harder for me to read this.
Yes.
That's going to lose you points for sure.
Basically, how I'm going to do this, I'm going to attack this from the outside in, Ethan. I'm looking at the trees first. Are there any names that I give a damn about on the trees? The Patriots defense? I don't really care. What is the other one down in the corner?
Ryan Suckup.
Oh, suck up. Okay, he got a suck up. Then he got Darnell Mooney, Laviska Shenault, M. Gass - Kin, Will Fuller, and Gronk. Well, I would like to start Gronk. Who is his tight end right now?
Mark Andrews.
Yes, I'm swapping. I'm waiting and seeing. If Hollywood Brown misses time, like you just said, then I think Mark Andrews gets a big bump. I was listening when you were speaking.
That's good.
He does have Jerry Jeudy in his lineup. He needs to remove him.
You got to get him out of there. You got to add another tree, put him on that tree by himself. Maybe
get an IR
bush,
tree. Yeah.
Smaller tree. Also, this is just, it's a beautiful drawing. Really love it. But you have to make your circles after you write the names because Darnell Mooney, you can tell this is a classic example of a pre-drawn circle and the name was too big to fit in the circle.
Same with Myles Gaskin.
These are not mistakes that you should be making.
They're not good.
Ever want to see a video again.
Okay, so I'm going to say Brandon Ayuk and Jerry Jeudy, they got to come out of your starting lineup. If you need to replace them with 2 wide receivers, maybe you have 3 wide receivers since you also have A.J. Brown in your lineup. I'm going with Laviska Shenault, and it's either between Darnell Mooney or Will Fuller.
Question, Jake.
Okay,
Would you
hit me.
start Gronk in the flex if you could? Would you start both Andrews and Gronk?
If
I'm
his
not
flex
loving
is
Will Fuller
Henderson,
as an
though.
option.
If his flex is Daryl Henderson, I don't know if I want to do that.
I'm
Because he's
saying
got
you could
Eckler and
replace
Chubb.
one of the starting wide receivers.
Then yes, I would
Okay.
do that.
Yeah. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Okay.
FFL Gold GPS.
Horrible name.
Not your best work. Fantasy.
Rookie C.
Rookie C.
Yeah, I'm not digging the team name. I love the creativity of the drawing, though. If we can get some creative drawings like that, I love that. 100%.
Hey, here's the thing. We get like hundreds of submissions.
Oh, yeah.
People don't even realize.
Yeah.
You got to stand out somehow. If you want to draw us pictures, that is going to increase your chances of getting in the video.
Agreed.
Sorry.
I mean, we put out tweets every week asking for these. You want to stand out. That is a great point there, Ethan. Another one that stood out is going to be So-So Faux Show. He stood out
for show.
because he decided to use giant bubble block letters to show us what positions were. So he's got, it looks like a donut with the hole sitting next to it. And that's where Aaron Rodgers is at.
It looks like one of those bells that used to be in the schools, like a school bell.
Yeah, I can see that. 2 R's, which we know are running backs, Austin Eckler and Najee Harris. Don't mind that. Wide receivers, 2 W's, Allen Robinson, Terry McLaurin. He made a good start there with Terry McLaurin. His
move.
flex. What letters are those, Ethan?
Well, I think
It looks like BTW, by the way.
Yeah, it looks like RTW to me, so that can't be right.
No.
Well,
I mean, it could be running back, tight end, wide receiver, but that doesn't. That looks like a B to start with. So,
I can see where you think that's a B.
yeah.
I'm more concerned
way,
about how this H
Higgins.
turned out.
Yeah, that H has
The
like
H
an
on
extra leg.
Higgins looks like a stick figure poking a pregnant stick figure. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I have an idea.
You knew what I was talking about.
Kyle Pitts is his tight end.
Not a great first week.
Not a great first week. I'm kind of confused. How come? Okay, so we got these big block letters to start off, right?
Yeah.
And we got normal writing after it.
And then the bench is also normal letters, but bold.
But why the hell is Young Hoiku, or Young Hoku, if you want to laugh at it, why is he in semi-block letters, but nobody else is?
Yeah, what's up with that?
That's playing favorites.
It is. I'm not seeing anybody on his bench that I would switch in for starters.
No.
Team
name? Tasmanian Devil?
Tasmanian Devil.
I mean, So-So Faux Show, it's okay if you're like 12, but let's step up the game a little bit.
No, you don't even have a Taz on your team.
There's no Taz in the NFL, is there?
No, but there should be.
There probably should be.
I'm going to give him bonus points because he has the Steelers defense, but I'm taking away points because I read the first name as A Dodgers and
the Dodgers. Not a big Dodgers fan, right?
I hate the Dodgers.
Hate the Dodgers. All right, moving on. Let's see here. Last one we're doing here. Wildcat Blue.
Oh, this is so colorful.
Yeah, talk about standing out, right? You got to stand out.
Large carrot.
The meaning behind it? Not sure.
Probably sexual.
Probably trying to be inappropriate just to make us say it on the internet. Well, it worked. I said it. I like the two-toned color, right? The orange up top.
Yeah,
but what confuses me here, though, Ethan, is on a carrot, which they even drew, the top is green and the bottom is orange. Why is the team bottom green?
Like, you're so right. He should have shaped the names in a carrot shape too.
Oh, totally. Missed opportunity.
Oh, Wildcat Blue. I am embarrassed.
Let's see about the teams. You need to make any changes here, Ethan? I like Damian Harris, but really no room for him.
Pretty stacked.
Yeah, pretty stacked. I don't think you really need to make any changes. I mean, you are fairly loaded from top to bottom there, large carrot, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but seriously, do your color coding correctly. That is a small carrot move.
Small carrot. That's small carrot energy right there. All right. Those were a few show us your teams. We love doing it. Like I said, we're going to be doing this every single week. I'll ask for them at the start of the week on Twitter. You submit them. How do you do that? Well, you got to send us the handwritten picture. Got to be handwritten. If they're screenshots, I straight up scan right past them. You got to include your team name, and you got to use the hashtag HeadlinerNation when you send it to us and attach it to that tweet. That's what we're looking for. But now, Ethan, Now it's time to be dipping in the bag, going to the mailbag now. So let me pull that one up next. We're going to dip in the bag here. First one up. His name probably is Robert Tadar or Tater.
Tater.
Tater. Is this Tater?
This is Tater.
Tater. What's going on? So it says, it looked like in the Giants game, Jones was getting more and more confident in Kenny G, and Kenny looked great. Do you see the connection improving in the next couple weeks? It's going to improve. I mean, obviously, the more they play together, the more their chemistry will improve. My issue is going forward, there's other options. It's not just force the ball to Kenny G, right? There's going to be other guys in that offense. Sterling Shepard has been playing good lately. Does Evan Ingram come back at some point? Does Kadarius Toney get involved second half of the year? There's just a lot of other questions. We saw Darius Slayton be a thing here this week. So there's a lot of questions where I think it takes away the consistency, Ethan, but I do expect it to improve, just maybe not to the point of maybe what you're expecting or hoping for with Kenny G.
Yeah, and Kenny G has been dealing with an injury from the preseason too,
Right.
so I don't think he's quite up to speed yet. You know, as he becomes healthier, will we see him get open more and then kind of demand more targets? I think there's a possibility of that. You know, I think they're still kind of working him into the offense. This is kind of a slow burn for this whole offense, as you know, in general, just with Saquon Barkley and Kenny Galladay both coming off of injuries. I don't expect, and they've had, you know, two pretty rough matchups to start the year. So, you know, I do think that it will improve. Will Kenny Galladay be like a top 24 wide receiver? Like,
Fringe.
I doubt it at this point. Just knowing how this season is probably going to go for the Giants, I would be very surprised if we see that.
Right. Next up, Daniel Orton. He wants to know about Tyson Williams. Is Tyson Williams the number one running back for the Ravens after this game? So this was after the Monday night game. Or is Latavius Murray going to take over? Here's what I've been saying all week long with Tyson Williams, and you can tell me if you think I'm onto something or if I'm totally wrong, Ethan. I like what I saw early from Tyson Williams. I do not like what I saw late in that game, which was missed blitz pickups, which is a big no-no. They got to protect Lamar. And then you even saw it at the last fumble from Lamar Jackson. He totally whiffed on blocking there for pass protection and totally led to the fumble that Lamar Jackson lost. You can't do that. And being that they've just signed all of these quote-unquote veterans, I mean, they have Latavius Murray, who got the touches down the stretch after only being in town for like a week. They just activated Devontae Freeman. They still have Le'Veon Bell in the midst. I'm not sold that Tyson Williams is going to be a thing very long in Baltimore. He may have a role the next week or two, but I think he slowly starts getting faded away, and we start seeing more and more of those veterans that they just brought in.
I agree. I thought that Tyson Williams gave him some juice.
Yep.
But in the second half, he showed why he's, you know, was the running back 3 on the team. Ultimately, I think we all love these stories of these running backs that, you know, ascend and become fantasy relevant right away. And we all want to blow all of the fab money on these players. Yep. And I think we forget oftentimes that there's a reason why they were not the starting running back to start the season.
Sure.
And in Tyson Williams' case, you know, he was not even the backup to start the season. He was really supposed to be kind of like a spark plug, maybe 1 to 5 carry a game guy for energy, maybe special teams kind of guy. He was not expected to be a bow cow. And so I just worry about those types of players and saying, oh yeah, we're going to expect, you know, this guy's going to end up carrying the ball 200 times this year now that he's got the opportunity. It's very rare that we see that.
Yep. 100%. Next one up, Logan Kinsey is where we're going next. And a similar situation, right? James Robinson, similar to Tyson Williams last year. Do you move James Robinson or hold on to him hoping the Jags get it together? My biggest problem here is Carlos Hyde. Because when Carlos Hyde got signed by Jacksonville, we know he has the past with Urban Meyer from Ohio State. All of a sudden, we're seeing Carlos Hyde get more touches than James Robinson, which may blow our minds. But in the mind of Urban Meyer, he's more familiar with the game of Carlos Hyde. Is it time to move on from James Robinson? I'm going to say no, not yet, because his value is so low after week 1. At this point, you're not going to get a whole lot from him because people are petrified of taking him on. You're not really going to get a whole lot. Wait a week or two, try to see if he trends a little bit better, get some more volume, maybe a little bit better games, and then I think about trying to shop him. I just think it's at this point, it's kind of a waste because you're just not going to return any value.
I agree. I think James Robinson, I'm not a big believer in selling low. James Robinson was a gift in most fantasy leagues this year because you drafted him and then he ended up being, getting his starting job back. I think he showed enough last year to justify holding on to him for a few more weeks and potentially hoping that he, can start breaking some runs away and prove himself to this new coaching staff.
Yep, agreed. Next up, Antonio Vigil. He wants to know, is it too risky to go for Saints wide receivers? It's not risky because you're not having to invest anything in hardly any of them. So the risk really isn't there. As far as starting them on a weekly basis, that's where it becomes risky because who is it going to be? Is it Marquez Callaway week? Is it Deontay Harris week? Is it neither? Is it an Alvin Kamara game? I just don't think we see the consistency. So starting them may be risky. Owning them may not, until we kind of see who solidifies themselves as the true number one in this offense, at least until Michael Thomas returns at some point.
Yeah, I would not expect this offense to be as efficient as they were in week one.
No.
So that does make it still kind of a risky proposition. If you can get both of those guys on your team and just kind of wait and see, I do think eventually one of them is going to kind of become the favorite. I'm still not totally out on Juwan Johnson as kind of the go-to to catch touchdowns in this offense. He had 2 in week one. I think he kind of fits that build of a Mike Evans type, a big athletic wide receiver. And we saw Jameis Winston, kind of feed the ball to that guy. If he can keep producing, I think Jameis will go back to those types of habits where he starts forcing the ball, 50-50 balls up to that type of player. So if it's me, I want the tight end. I don't want anything to do with the wide receivers until I know for sure.
100%. Last one up here, McKenzie. Who's going to be the alpha in the 49ers backfield? I don't know if we're going to have an alpha all year long. I really don't. I think even when Trey Sermon gets more work, it's going to be a mixture of Elijah Mitchell, of JaMychal Hasty, and Trey Sermon all in the mix the rest of the season, if I had to guess.
If in doubt, choose the one that is least likely that week and bet on that person.
Yeah, exactly.
In week one, that was Elijah Mitchell. In week two, it's probably Trey Sermon. I mean, he was a healthy scratch. They're saying he was a healthy scratch because he wasn't as valuable in special teams. Could he come in and basically get the starting job? I mean, yeah, absolutely. He could come in. They drafted him above Elijah Mitchell. So right now, I would say it's Elijah Mitchell, but I don't trust it going week to week. The other thing is, and I said this before the season started, all of these guys that they have on their team are injury risks. So it's really, the answer is probably whichever guy is healthy that week.
Yeah, right. That's the main thing to pay attention. It's just a San Francisco thing, right? They're getting hurt every single year. Just find the healthy guy on a week-to-week basis. So that was the mailbag. We dipped in the bag here this week, Ethan. We did, broke down a few teams. We covered some injuries here heading into week 2, and we want to make sure that we continue to have a little bit of fun here as we deliver the real news and the real takes. We want to make sure we keep this light and have fun with you, the community. If you enjoy that type of stuff, make sure you do us a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're looking forward to week 2. I mean, the season is here. We're having fun. And the content is just flowing right now, Ethan. The content just coming out like butter. So hopefully you guys are enjoying it out there. But for myself and for the doc here today, hopefully you guys have a great end of your week, a great weekend. Good luck this time, and we'll talk to you later.